My biggest problem is this. For how long will we let the prison prefect of Nairobi run roughshod in this county? The guy is now becoming a bully. Not
the
becoming,
guy here meaning?
The prison prefect, Sonko.
Just wanted to make it clear.
Right? So what he does is this. Number one, look at how he exited his former chief of finance and CEO of finance simply because they were obeying treasury instructions. See the embarrassment that Makodingo and his friends had to go through, being printed in the newspapers as though they had stolen something, and it being written they're no longer employees. For how long will we allow Sonko to bully the director of NMS and call him Saddam Hussein? That is verbal bullying. How long will we allow Sonko to take recordings of the president, of Esther Passaris and different people and embarrass them to the public? How long will we allow Sonko to have taken nude images of a lady and share them on social media? How long will we allow Sonko to make decisions, then come back and claim that he was drunk? How long will we tolerate Sonko? That is my question. You know,
and maybe Mark, maybe the answer to your question is as long as democracy rules, because, well, the people did choose him as governor.
You know, the buck has to stop somewhere. You know, let me tell you, we've tolerated this man and this kind of behavior for too long. And let me tell Kenyans something. The problem of tolerating the Sonkos of this world is that they are then closely followed by the Babuinos and Jaguars of this world. We cannot continue like this.
All right, Mark. Sorry, let me just pause you there a little bit. So in regards to Beatrice Elachi's resignation, are you saying that she was bullied out of office by Sonko?
But that's exactly what she said. That's exactly what she said. That she's had death threats on her life, that she's been basically, you know, look at the story of how many people, goons, went to City Hall. That's why it was being investigated. That's why the police had to stop. You tell me, which other place have you seen where just trying to get rid of a speaker has become a war? Do you remember what Mafirifiri said? Mafirifiri said she didn't even have an idea. Was just instructed to go and bully the person of Elachi. And when you look at the accusations against her, they were all made from absolutely nothing. Even when she pays for her own trip to go to the United States to get her back treated, it became an issue. So this is bullying by Sonko par excellence. And my question to my president, my country, and all of us in general is how long will we suffer?
What would you have had different? I need to move to Agri, but I'll come back to you and maybe you'll tell us what you'd have had different. But let me hear from Agri Chebeda. Your thoughts on Beatrice Elachi's resignation. She literally put up a spirited fight for quite a while. Remember, she had been impeached and was out of office for a time. And then she came back and again she was threatened of being impeached and then finally throwing in the towel. What do you make of this, Agri? Do you think she was bullied out of office?
Yes, I think she was bullied out of office, but I also think that when you go into the history of her impeachment and when you go into the manner in which she came back through the courts, and when you look at the way she has been handling affairs of the county assembly, you get the impression that she is taking instructions from somewhere and literally trying to force things. In democracies, you find that there must be ways in which you are able to get people to bat in your corner. And she appeared to be, in my opinion, very, very dictatorial in the way she was handling affairs of the council. And in a way, it was inevitable that it was going to come to what it has reached now.
So do you think her issue was more of a governance issue, maybe handling her political way of doing things, or do you think it was an issue of disagreement between her and the governor, Mike Sonko?
I think it's a bit of both. Governor Mike Sonko, I mean, having said what I've said, Governor Mike Sonko finds himself in a corner, and any cat that's in a corner starts to fight and starts to look for ways to get out of his predicament. And I think Beatrice Elachi became collateral damage. But I do also agree with Mr. Bichachi that the way the affairs of the Nairobi County have been handled, leave a lot to be desired, and they fall at the feet of Mike Sonko as the governor. And it is very unfortunate that the way the structures are, Nairobi County is the window of the whole country, and I think the country is a laughing stock of anybody who watches and sees
what's happening. All right, let me come to you, Mark. What would you have had, or what would you have had as a solution? Should the president have come in? Maybe he already did and gave instructions, or how would you have had Beatrice Elachi handle this?
First, Mike, it's not the president's role to give instructions to the county government and the county assembly. That would be, the separation of powers is quite clear. But what should have happened is, I think the mistake we made is we didn't impeach Sonko when we had a chance to. The guy is ungovernable, he's unruly, and he changes his mind faster than a flag changes direction as the wind blows. Look at one day, the director of NMS is Saddam Hussein. The next day, I am sorry, and it is politicians who've been getting between us, as though Sonko is an alien to Nairobi. Come on, we can't keep playing these games. The thing is, and I say this without fear or favor, Mike Sonko simply needs to be removed. That's it. And we need to remove the Mike Sonkos of this world out of our political system, inclusive of the Papuawinos of the day. We cannot allow people who run roughshod of common decency. Forget about the law. Just common decency and decorum needs to be respected. As in, come on, for how long will we tolerate people who go to rallies and say, Mamanzi, mwah? Come on, where are we?
All right, Mark, I think we've got your point. Let me move to Agri. Your thoughts on what needs to be done in Nairobi, because at the end of the day, we have NMS doing their best to see whether they can implement what the president gave us their mandate and the instructions they were given. We even had the DG, the Director General, give a 100-day report and scorecard. But what would you have done in Nairobi for us to move on? Agri.
I think under the circumstances, His Excellency, the President, did what he could because of the fact that Governor Sonko is the governor and legal minefields to be jumped if he had tried to simply cast him aside and put NMS there without any formalities or process. Having said that, I think it is time we really looked at Nairobi as a county and see whether it should be treated as a special region which can be handled directly by the government. I think it's very important, even if it's a smaller part of the county, to ensure that services reach the people. I mean, it's much as people are talking legalese, everybody watching is seeing services being delivered, and they are wondering, so what has been happening over the last 3, over the last 5, over the last 7 years, that somebody can sit there and in a space of 1 month, you are told we have 70 boreholes. You begin to see roads being repaired. You begin to see street lights. You begin to see traffic lights working. Yeah, what has been going on over the last 7 years as we talk about the law,
talk about that.
Talk about to do things.
All right, so there seems to be positive movement right there. Thank you for that. Let's move on to another topic, and it forms the headline for The Standard this morning. And what The Standard says this morning is Ruto is deep state. That's according to Raila. And we do know that not too long ago, we had the deputy president come out and say that he is not afraid of deep state. And regardless of how the deep state, tries to shove him out of the system, he certainly is looking forward to 2022. And I'll just quote what the former Prime Minister said. And he says he holds no position in government. It is led by the president, whose name you know, and the deputy, whose name you know. So if we're talking about a deep state, who is there? It's the president and his deputy. Let me start with you, Agri. Deep state, do you understand what deep state is? Is there something like deep state? Is the deputy president justified in using such a term?
My understanding of deep state is that there are dark forces, people who are unelected, who exist in a system and who actually ultimately control who gets into office, who doesn't get into office, who gives out the contracts, where they go. And my understanding of what Deputy President Ruto is trying to say is that those forces are now in place working against him. I would also like to think that inevitably, where he's saying that at one time these same dark forces were working for him, but they have shifted base, and he seems to be complaining. Now, as a deputy president, I think he's between a rock and a hard place. He can't point fingers.
Does it worry you? Does it worry you that the second in command of a country is talking about a deep state? We imagine that for him being in that position, then if there's any deep state, then really he should be the one to highlight it and dismantle.
Yes, it is very worrying when a second in command talks about a deep state while he's still in office. Exactly, because it implies that he knows exactly who it is, and more ominously, it also implies that probably he's scared of actually pointing them out, because maybe his life is in danger, maybe his family is in danger. I cannot speak for him, but it's really frightening, because we've seen these things in other countries whereby states are captured. We've seen the issue of state capture discussed in detail in South Africa. And if there is indeed a deep state in Kenya, and personally I believe there is a deep state, then we are not in a good place.
All right, let me come to you, Mark Bichachi. Your understanding of deep state and whether you would feel the Deputy President has a point when he talks about deep state.
No, I find it very funny that we compare Kenya to South Africa when we know the South African story very well. When we talk about state capture in South Africa, we have a family, we have a name, and we have individuals who are involved. We have the Guptas, who had basically captured the financial levers of the country through the President Jacob Zuma. And it was very clear, and the case is going on in court. Now, if Kenya has such a similar situation, the Deputy President has enough political wherewithal, forget about personal security as well, to stand on a podium and say XYZ is deep state. And let me tell you something, whenever a conspiracy is spun and you never identify who deep state is, then I'm only forced to conclude that you've borrowed a leaf from Donald J. Trump. Because it is Trump who, while in office, claims there is a deep state. It is Trump who uses this same tired lines to try and excuse and find pity from the people, because this is an attempt at sympathy and using the name of God. And let me tell you, this strategy is becoming obvious. Let's see how Trumpian it is. Number one, the love and purported love of church, despite having many illicit relationships that have produced children. Number two, having this so-called love of church and support of church when your actions are nothing close to church.
But Mark, wait. Let me just get you clear. When you say, when you talk, wait. Hang on. When you talk about purported love for church, who are we talking about here? Are you talking about the Deputy President?
No, I'm talking about Kenyan politicians who borrow from the Trumpian book of conspiracy.
Of conspiracy. All right, carry on.
So I'm talking about the strategies politicians employ. And then you've got the strategy of sweeping your own issues under the rug. And I'll give you an example. There's a politician who is claimed to have shot someone, but soon released a repentance video saying he's very sorry and began to teach our children. So this is the kind of games that we play. But more important, in any such system, you need to create a villain. Now, the more amorphous the villain is, the better for Trump. He has the system, he has Mexicans coming south of the border, and he's got the left liberals, who is calling communists. And that is how you create a system and win the sympathy of the people, such that no matter what you do, they don't see. And this is what is happening in Trump's America. And that's what slowly we're beginning to create in this country when we start creating ghosts and demons to chess that are not real and hide behind the pillar of religion, because when you hide behind religion, people will not ask you questions because they believe faith is not reasoned, it is simply believed.
It is so you, in short, what you're saying is that there is nothing like a deep state.
Let me tell you, any conspiracy that is out there that is based on reality will always have people who are driving it, okay? That's how it's always been. Look at every true conspiracy. It does not take long before you identify this is the head of this particular system or whatever. But when it's fake, you cannot say who it is, because if it's the president who's against him, then it's not deep state. The president is the state. He heads the state, right? So the deep state implies something that is beneath and underground the state. But also, if people in government you've interacted with, you've run roughshod of them, and they don't like you, don't turn them into deep state. They just simply don't like you, because you probably mistreated them. You know,
All
so
right.
if I go to the office and my employees dislike me, should I call them this deep state?
All right, and Agre, maybe just to finish on that, what is your conclusion of that? What is it that you would conclude from what the Deputy President is saying? Obviously, we have seen a number of things that should reveal to us that he and the President may not be where they were when they came into office. But what does that mean for Kenya, in your opinion? What does that mean for us as a country?
I think it leaves us rather confused. And I think the Deputy President is repositioning himself into a place where he will place himself in front of the Kenyans as a victim and use that as a strategy going into the 2022 election cycle. I expect to see within 1 year further distancing and more boldness from some of his allies in trying to defy the head of state as they feel his term is nearing an end. I also expect to see a lot of complications with the BBI simply because of the fact that it has been dragged into the issue of the revenue allocation. Basically, the Deputy President is beginning to lay the foundation for a divorce without actually leaving office.
Well, let's leave that to that. And as we wind up, we have a few more minutes to go. I'll start with you, Mark Bichachi. Let's focus on the states. And we have Kamala Harris as a running mate. This, of course, has created a lot of talk. Your thoughts on this, and maybe whether Donald Trump has got some competition that he should be scared of?
You know, first, the saddest thing that is coming out of the United States is how the black community is saying Kamala Harris is not black enough. That's based on the fact that she comes from black and Indian descent. And they're saying she's not black enough. They're going back to her history as a prosecutor and saying that she was involved in the jailing of many black people. You wonder what else a successful prosecutor would do. And this kind of spin is very interesting to me, because I keep wondering, why is it that when it is white privilege, it is no one is not white enough to be privileged, but when it comes to black and underprivilegement, we have a lot of blacks that are not black enough. And that, my friend, is where it's going to bite. Where it's going to bite is the ability of the Trump conspiracy theory propaganda machinery to smear mud on the Democrats, and therefore there's still a big chance. Let me tell you why there's a big chance. The racism in this particular election is still alive and well. The question is, do the Americans value their economy and their country more than they hate the black race and people of different color? If the latter is true, then I'll tell you Trump will win this early in the morning. Because just like with Brexit, Just like with the 2016 election, in the polls, they all lied and said, you know what, we would never vote for someone who's sexist when he said he needs to grab women by things I cannot mention. He called African countries certain names we cannot mention. But the question is, the white privilege in America